Welcome to Adobe Conversations. This morning we have, or evening, wherever you're listening, we are discussing moms in ministry, and I have some incredible ladies with me this morning, afternoon. I'm Amanda O'Kelly. I'm Pastor Sean's wife. I've been a mom in ministry for 18 years, and I just want to share these special ladies with you as well.
I'm Rebecca. I'm the worship director here at Adobe, and I've been a mom in ministry for 5 years.
My name is Kim, and I'm married to Anthony, the youth director here, and we serve the Adobe youth, and I have been in ministry as a mother for the last 17 years.
My name is Veronica. I'm the kids director here at Adobe, and I've been a mom in ministry for 6 years.
Let's dive in. So I felt a call to ministry, like really early on, even in high school. I knew that I wanted to be in ministry. I didn't know exactly what that would look like, but I felt the need to share the gospel, reach unsaved people, felt a deep passion for worship, and it shifted in a sense. I knew when Sean and I got married and he was called to be youth pastor, I knew okay, so now I'm stepping into this role as a pastor's wife and what that looks like in partnering with my husband in ministry, and doing ministry together as a youth pastor and a youth pastor's wife. But we started off with Chloe in youth ministry. So I was already a mom when we started official ministry, not our internship, that kind of thing. And I think that we always, and I especially, always looked at motherhood as my first ministry. So as a mom, I always wanted to make sure that all of my first energy and my first priority went into my marriage and my kids. So if things were well in those areas, then I could pour out further into other people. And so that's kind of where the call began and kind of what it looked like in the beginning of being a mom.
So you guys started official ministry after Chloe was born?
Yeah, Chloe was only 2 months old, I think, when we started our first position in Sacramento as youth pastors.
Wow.
So I always credit we were brand new pastors. We'd only been married for 3 years. I credit our senior pastor and his wife for really taking a chance on us. Because Sean was fresh out of Bible college. We had no idea what we were doing. We rolled into it with all these crazy ideas. How about go-kart church? And how about we did crazy stuff with ministry. And we came in again with Chloe as an infant. But then we went on and had 2 more kids in 3.5 years. So we had, within the span of 4 years, 3 kids under the age of 4, which I also don't recommend when you're starting out ministry. Maybe don't have a ton of kids all at once at the very beginning. That's exhausting.
Going into your marriage, did you know that you guys were called to ministry?
We did. Yeah. Sean knew that he was called to be a pastor. I had actually prayed prior to us getting married that I would either marry a teacher or a pastor.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was really funny how the Lord was here's a man that I'm going to call into ministry and his gifting is teaching. I was that's funny. You're cute, Lord. You know what you're doing. So
that's really cool.
I always love that.
Awesome.
I feel I actually got started in worship ministry, not necessarily feeling a calling to worship ministry. Mm-hmm. It was more something a youth pastor pulled out of me. Was, he brought to my attention, hey, you're a pretty good singer. Would you be interested in joining the youth worship team? And so I got started singing in the youth group, just singing along with the band. And I was so nervous. I didn't want anyone to hear me. I was I'll stand up here and I'll sing, but I hope no one can hear anything. And I just, I look back at where I started and I'm wow, the transformation is crazy. And things that you think you'll never be able to do, the Lord really sends people to cultivate those skills and pull them out of you. But yeah, so I got started, someone presented it to me, would you be interested? And then word gets out and then it's like, do you want to help lead in the adult service? And you're like, okay, not really, but okay, I'll try. And then some, another youth pastor gave me piano lessons in exchange for babysitting their kids. And so all these...
Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
So all these skills were kind of cultivated by other people. And along with that grew a desire to lead worship and be, a leader in that capacity. But I did not go into it thinking I was even capable necessarily of leading a ministry at some point, or even thinking like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do career-wise. It kind of morphed into that, probably because I felt not qualified or not capable at the beginning. But, then I did schooling and all those things. And motherhood, along with ministry, has been something. But it takes a balance, split focus, and, your home is your first ministry. So that becomes harder to like split the energy and make sure you're giving your best in both areas. But also I really like having quote unquote church kids. Lila comes to work with me, whenever I come, and she thinks she owns the place and she has her own little space in the office, and they run up and down and they do whatever. And I actually really like that. And I think it's cool for kids to be involved in that way and grow up coming with their parents to church and making it like, oh, this is my space too. And like, I'm a part of this family, and witnessing, like, cause Jeff, he does sound and all those things, but witnessing your parents serving and doing ministry. And that's how I grew up too. And so that was kind of instilled in me from a young age. Just that being in service in the church was, that everyone has kind of a role. So I've enjoyed that part of incorporating motherhood into ministry.
Yeah.
Hoping that one day my kids will remember that and have that heart for service also.
It almost calls them into a place of ministry at such an early age when it's like, this is your home. We're serving, mom and dad are serving. How can you help? Like today, setting up this, Lila comes over, what are you doing? I was like, can you help? Can you help with the prints? Yeah. And she goes and throws away the garbage, and it's just such an organic way to say kids are called too to help them and serve and be present in the church.
And I do think it helps them be like more flexible. They have to entertain themselves sometimes, and they're used to like, okay, we're not at home. We're going to be at church for 6 hours today, like find something to do. And it's hard too, but I think in the long run, it's good for them. So,
absolutely. Yeah. So Kim, tell us about your journey into ministry, having a husband who does youth ministry. Were you always doing ministry in church? What's been your journey there?
I think we have kind of always helped out in ministry, whether it's kids, youth, young adults. Anthony was music for lots of years. And even in our dating relationship, it was music. And then a few years ago, we decided to take on the youth here, and with 3 kids at the time. And then I found out I was pregnant with our 4th. I was like, oh, here we go. And we were leaving for, I think it was a youth convention. So that was fun.
That's when you found out? That's when you found out? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was like right before that. And it was like we were leaving and I was having morning sickness. I was like, all right, nobody knows. We're going to get through this. But so, it's been kind of interesting. But we both have had a call like for many years. I think high school for both of us.
I didn't realize that youth wasn't always your guys' ministry.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
no.
I didn't realize that.
No, actually, both of us, we were called to missions when we were young, like separate. And then when God brought us together, we kind of both like talked about that. And I think at this point in life, that's a little bit further out down the road. I don't know how I feel about taking little ones into the mission field, but definitely we've had a heart for all ages, especially kids and the youth and young adults. So it's been interesting to see how that has unfolded. And then when we, how God called us into Adobe, having the connection with Sean and Amanda, and they let us know like, oh yeah, there's a position at Adobe. We need a youth director. And we're like, oh, really? We knew God had called us back to California. We didn't know why. And so God unfolded the steps, I think, and it kind of all worked out. So
how has that been for you as far as doing different ministries together, and then also having the kids come in as you're doing the different ministries? Because every department really has a different style of, connecting with people, especially with teens. That's a very different style of approaching ministry. And
definitely. It has worked, I think, because we have family help, we have support there, and we have like a lot like what they said. My kids are my first ministry and Anthony's first ministry, and so with that, like, I think if you have that desire and that overfilled cup to pour out, I think that really helps to like want to love on the young, and our heart is really for them. And we have a teenager too. So that really, helps to want to guide that age group. And I mean, there's days, of course, that are hard, Wednesdays, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just like scrubbed my house and I'm exhausted and like, here we go, like drink an energy drink and like, okay, we got this.
Yeah, because Anthony does work a full-time job.
Yes, that is definitely a struggle.
Yeah.
That's a struggle because his heart too is pulled to ministry. He would love to do that full-time. And it's just the place we're in to support our family. He does work a full-time job and then does the youth too. So he's not always like, I wouldn't say his cup is 100% like filled up, but God has given him that strength and that energy to like keep going. And we love it. And we're always like every youth group, we like, detox and we reflect on like, oh, how did it go this Wednesday? And somehow God like is always like just pouring out more into our hearts that give us like that energy to keep going and to see like the changes that are coming through the kids and seeing their growth. Because sometimes, it can be hard with that age group where you're like, are they taking in anything? Are they listening? But they really are. Somehow it's like, oh, even if their eyes were closed, they're listening. So yeah, it's cool.
Good. We'll have to come back to the subject of keeping our cup full later. I think that's a really good topic to hit on. For me, I was a PK like Anthony. Anthony and I, our childhood kind of intersected a little bit there. So I always grew up in church, and then I kind of took a step back from being a Christian as a young adult. And then when I came back, I feel like the Lord knew that I needed to get fully immersed in ministry because I had to like he put me into a bubble. I know it's not always a good idea to be in a Christian bubble, but for me and what I was coming from, that's what the Lord did for me. And I feel like ever since then, it's been an intermix of the sanctification process of coming back to Christianity out of atheism, actually, and the healing process of that, and being so intimately involved in ministry, having the opportunities with my parents, but also the calling. And through that, I feel like the Lord has taken me from the womb of being a Christian and in ministry to adulthood in giving me integrity through being involved in ministry. And I'm not saying that that's always the best idea, but that's why here I love that we have the party with the pastors and then serve at Adobe. There's something in serving that coincides with the work that the Lord's doing in you. And so it's really important to know that whatever the Lord's working out in you, he wants you to actually work it out with your hands and find a ministry to serve in and to do. And as far as motherhood and ministry, whoa, that has really, that has been a trip a little bit for me because I am very goal-oriented, very task-oriented, and I love seeing finished projects. And you touched on how in ministry, we don't have those stats. We don't have the like, okay, look at this quarter, look at all the souls in heaven, you don't really get that accomplishment feeling, and you don't really get that in motherhood either. And so in ministry, you can so easily burn out because you're just doing. And with motherhood, again, it's really easy to burn out. And so I think how important it is to find him in the midst of it all and to ask him, okay, this is the plate that I have. I want to give my best in ministry, but I definitely want to give my best to my kids too. And being able to say no to things that I think before motherhood, I would have just been like, yes, 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 yes. So motherhood really has changed how important my no is. Having kids in the ministry really just makes my eye so much more, just like, oh, as a parent and as a kids minister, this is what I want to see from my kids. How I want to be ministered to is how I want my families to feel ministered to. So yeah, motherhood has really, really impacted the way that I approach ministry and the compassion and the take-home aspect of it rather than, the performance, because you could get into that of like, did it look good? Whereas now it's so much more like, how did that impact my volunteers? How are they going home? How are they talking to their family about what they experienced at church? And how did they, how is our relationship walking away from that? And it really is due to motherhood that all came about. Just to pivot a little bit, I'd like to open up the topic of how do you fill your cup? I know America is in a busy state. Everybody can be busy across. But especially in this area, it's very fast-paced, very transient. People are commuting all the time. There's just this sense of busyness and movement. With having kids at home, with being busy in ministry, how do you find your rest? And not just sleeping or vegetating.
Yeah.
But how do you find the restorative peace in the midst of all that?
Yeah, over the last year, I would say this is a topic I've felt really challenged on because I think a lot of people think of rest as sleeping or just mentally check out, scrolling, laying down, watching TV. I don't know.
Guilty.
Yeah. And for my first, I don't know, until after Lila was born, so probably 3 years or so of being a parent, that's kind of how I operated. But I felt like I didn't have the capacity to do anything else. Like I felt so tired and a lot of excuses, honestly, of like, I just don't have time. I just not feeling like it today. And over the last year, I felt really called to be more disciplined and not operate from my feelings or how tired I am that day, but being disciplined and doing things because I know they're good for me, not because I necessarily want to do them. Because if I think I've said this on the last podcast I was on, but if I only worked out when I felt like it, it's like I would never do it because I don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing it. Or like if I felt like eating salad instead of mac and cheese, I would never do that either. So it's been really a mental decision over the last year to rest in different ways. And that is, when the kids have their quiet time, instead of just vegging out, it's go outside, get your workout in, sit in the sun, read instead of, filling every moment with noise. Because that's also something I've tried to pull back from is like, okay, I'm not going to turn on the TV. I have 5 minutes of quiet. I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. But before it's like, oh, I miss those things I used to do. I miss those things, like that transition to motherhood. I miss those things I used to do, the shows I used to watch, the time I had to cook this in silence, And so whenever I would have those moments, you'd be like, okay, I fit it all in. Like, okay, watch all my shows, do all this. And now it's like being more intentional about, but what's going to care for me the best, even if I don't feel motivated to do it. And just choosing to be like, I don't feel like it, but I'm going to do it has really helped. Eventually you just make new habits. And the way you feel after doing them is really motivating to me.
I think now having our youngest 8, which is crazy, and our oldest just turning 18, also crazy. It looks different in different seasons is what I've found. So when we were in the season where we had 3 in diapers and like we didn't sleep for like a decade straight, like I just, like hiding out in my bathroom with like a devotional on the back of the toilet was like literally the only time I was like, then I remember the first time. So we had 11 moves in like the first, I want to say like 12 years we were married. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
But I remember the first time we moved into a house where the bathroom actually locked. Like, what is it with all these homes where the bathrooms didn't lock? I don't know. It was ridiculous. But the first time we moved into a house where the bathroom locked, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was so excited because I could go into the bathroom and lock the door and like actually have a moment of peace, not just to like take care of my own personal physical needs, but like I could like sit and read for a minute. Like, but it sounds like TMI, but yes. Like just those little moments that I almost felt like I was stealing for myself, kind of were like a lifeline, like a survival tool to like get through. And off of that, kind of shifting my mindset and realizing like, I shouldn't have to feel like I'm always in survival mode.
Yeah.
And as mothers, I feel like we pour out constantly for everybody around us. And we don't always stop and take the time to realize like, it is not selfish for me to stop and say to my kids, you know what? Lego time is done. I do not need to build another Lego with you. You'll survive. Like, you're not going to be damaged psychologically if I say no to you right now. Build your own Legos. Mom's going to go take 10 minutes. Like, that's okay. And it took me a really long time to be able to set those boundaries with my kids, with my husband, to just say like, hey, I'm maxed out. I need a minute for me. Like, I need to go recharge. I need quiet. I need to pray. I need to worship. Like whatever it is that I needed in the moment. And that just came with time. It came with learning through my own trial and error of what worked for me and what didn't, and what I needed in different seasons. And, when you're in the thick of it with tiny infants and you're exhausted, sometimes the best that you can do is just literally 5 minutes in the bathroom with the door locked while you just cry out to the Lord, like, please God, help me make it through this day. And sometimes that's what you can get. But now that they're all older, there's like a bit more structure, and I'm the opposite. Like, if I don't go to the gym each day, I'm not as godly and gentle and kind with my children. Like, that is for me. I gotta go get a workout in, and while I'm working out, I listen to like some worship or a podcast or whatever it is. I'm like, that's my time for me to recharge. But it is just finding, I think, what works for you, and it's different for everybody. Like, I used to look at all these women that I admired, and I was like, oh, they get up at 5 a.m. and they have this hour of devotion time, and like, they're so godly and amazing. And having to stop comparing myself to others and realize, like, I'm not a 5 a.m. woman. When I get up at 5 a.m., I'm a monster, and that is not good for anybody. So finding your rhythms and what works for you, and just really being true to yourself and who God created you to be and what you need.
Yeah. I completely can relate to that. Definitely. I think every season there's just something that might look different with the time that you have. Mine is definitely also working out. I'm also a monster if I do not get exercise in. It keeps me just, I think, balanced. And I think it's also my time where God does speak to me when I'm like exercising and I'm like getting filled up, and also just physically, emotionally, and all of the above. And then also worship music, even if my kids are screaming, and because they're with me 24/7, I turn on worship music and somehow they like calm down, and it actually brings like a different, like just peace into my house, and makes me feel rejuvenated. And I try to like, get the word in, usually in my bed late at night. I'm on my phone, or I'm early in the morning on my phone, or finding those moments if it's hiding in the bathroom too.
Lucky girl.
We just had that conversation yesterday. I had to set the ground rules again. I'm like, you knock on my door. Yes. You do not barge in my bathroom. Every shower, you barge in my bathroom, and I'm done.
Do you still get the notes under the door too? I learned when I I would lock the door, then my kids would slide little notes and pictures under the door. Are you done yet? Like, it's been 3 minutes. We're going to die without you.
Like, I love you so much, but give me 5 minutes to clean my body.
Yeah, I love what you said, Amanda, about how it's not selfish to take those times. Mm-hmm. And I've been coming to terms with that with my daughter, because she loves imaginary play, but I don't. I really don't like it. And there's a lot of other things that I'm constantly like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. That's kind of how my motor is. Just like really recently, I've had to re-gauge and say, okay, Lord, how much time do I really need to give this little person? Because I don't want her to feel rejected, because that is something she loves to do. Mm-hmm. I really don't love to do that. So what's the compromise here? One thing that I do to get recharged, in addition to what you guys have said, besides the exercise, I don't really exercise. And you're saying that, I'm like, maybe I am a monster. No, I'm just kidding. In addition to what you guys have mentioned, one thing that really recharges me is I talk to my sister every day. We talk, and she is doing awesome things for the Lord in her vein, and it just charges me in a way, like just talking and chatting. And Eliza sees that, who's my daughter. And so now what we've decided on our compromise is she could call me on the phone and we'll talk while she plays. So that's my way of, I'm doing my thing, especially if I'm needing a recharge moment, which I do embroidery. And if I'm sitting down and doing my embroidery, she'll call me. It's like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone, and any way that I can do that, I'm on board. I'm like, Lord, there's so much to be done. Please overlap the things that need to be done. And the other thing for me is what I've picked up since reading The Circle Maker, which is the staff went through. The author talks about how reading scripture should be overlapped with prayer. Like, scripture is part of the prayer dialogue. Instead of just being like, here's my heart, Lord, which is good. That's a good practice. But a lot of people miss the practice of the fact that scripture is a dialogue with our prayers. And so one thing that I've been trying to implement is writing out scripture verses, because I feel like when I'm just reading it, sometimes my mind can go absent. But when I'm writing it, I am actually intaking it on a different level and able to talk. And so it's kind of filling that cup for me of chatting with the Lord, because sometimes I'll be praying and I just am like, I don't really feel the presence of the Lord. I don't feel like that's life-giving sometimes. It takes me a little bit to get into it. But having the practice of writing out the scripture has been so rejuvenating to me. And it's encapsulating a lot of what makes my person come alive, as far as chatting and talking and just being with the Lord and not feeling like it's a one-way conversation of me just talking to him, which, again, that's a good practice, but prayer should be multidimensional in order to fill those restful needs. And I think as women, talking and verbalizing and needing just to get your ideas out is an important part of femininity, in my opinion. Being able to incorporate that part of who I am in my prayer life has made such a difference for me in getting that restoration. Because I do, in my person, I want to numb out. Like that's my way of like getting away. And the Lord has really kind of been like, I need you present. I've had to address that recently of like, how can I find rest without numbing out?
I can relate to that talking to my sister. I feel the same way. It's like a outlet. She's also a mom now. But I do think that motherhood gets so isolating if you let it. Yeah. And we forget how community can also recharge us in a way. Just like we're doing right now, talking it out with other moms or family members or friends or whatever it is, going out for coffee, once every 6 months, because that's when you can fit it in. I don't know.
When everyone's schedules align.
Yeah. But I have really tried to make an effort to like, okay, let's set up the play date. Let's try to go get coffee, all those things. I'll bring my kids if I have to, just staying connected with people, because when you're isolated, it's so discouraging. And I think it really changes your perspective of motherhood and life. And if you can get in community, like that's so important. So I think that's a great way to rest too, even though you may not feel like you have a lot of social energy. I find that after I might not go into it feeling super energized, but I leave it feeling better and more energized than I did. Because sometimes you're like, man, I wish I didn't make this plan today. But after you leave, you're like, oh, that was, yeah. Again, that goes back to not operating on how you feel necessarily. It's like, I know that this is going to be good for me. You do it, and then you feel better after.
Yeah.
I have found it to be a rule of thumb now. The more that I don't want to do something I have previously planned, the better it's going to be for me.
Yeah.
A lot of times, just because that's how it is.
Yeah.
And so when I don't want to go, I'm like, I need to go. So you guys have mentioned that you've moved quite a bit. Who have you been able to call upon when you're really stretched thin?
I honestly, and not to like poo-poo our family, they were just far. They were far away in all of our moves, and so they were not especially helpful. But I found that church members were always incredibly helpful with every one of our moves. Like people that we had never even met before, that didn't have relationship with us, just stepped in to love on us, help us, bring meals, unpack. Like people were incredibly helpful and kind and generous. And then once we were like located in a church and knew the people, because we just kept moving houses, like we like to try out a house and then go to a new one. Like that was fun for 6 months. We should pack up and do it again. This is a fun game. People were like, we know where you like your dishes. We'll come unpack your kitchen. We just did this. We got practice. Yeah. We had, the last house we bought in Rio Vista, it was hilarious. One of our friends, she and her husband like literally threw a moving party, and she was like, hey, everybody from boot camp, like skip your workout and come get a workout moving shoulder to Amanda's boxes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like everyone literally came and just moved all of our stuff because I had just had surgery. Like, yeah, so people in the church have always just been incredibly helpful and gracious to us with our inability to stay put. Yeah.
My parents are our neighbors, so they're just a few houses down. They both work full time, but they help as much as they can. And I'm not someone who likes to ask for help a lot either. So I don't like putting people out. So it's hard for me to ask for help. But yeah, they've been super helpful. And I was just telling someone this the other day, but when we first came to Adobe, I was pregnant with Lila, but we didn't know like anyone here. And, with your kids, you don't just give them to anyone. And so, going through that, the end of that pregnancy and birth in that transition felt like we didn't have a lot of help. We had my parents, Pastor Sean and Amanda. I remember Pastor Sean came over to the house, they brought dinner. I think Kim and Anthony sent dinner. But I was sharing how this pregnancy, I feel completely different. Like because Jeff and I are both involved in Sunday morning. So we're thinking, my parents travel a lot. We could think of, a handful of people that we would hand our baby to, that we feel comfortable giving them to, or asking for a favor for do a grocery run or, drop off dinner or something. So yeah, we've really found that support system here. I remember operating from the mindset of like, oh, I feel like I don't have anyone. And God really challenging me to be the one to intentionally cultivate those relationships. They don't just happen.
Right.
And you can't just sit at home and be like, man, I really wish I had a friend. And never talk to anyone or do anything. And you can really like kind of wallow in that. And so I really felt challenged to like pull myself out of that and be like, okay, yeah, going to a new church is hard where you don't know anyone. You're going to have to put yourself out there and like, try to make friends. And look what we have now. Yeah, we got a whole support system. So it's really awesome to see how, God provides what you need. And I think he's provided more than we need in this instance. And that's really awesome to feel like you have a lot of people to turn to and ask for help.
Difference.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
My support system has definitely been a mix. My family, my sister, my mom, my mother-in-law is like my godsend. although she just moved away, so I'm a little heartbroken. And so they definitely have been like my backbones, and when I need to call upon them. And I had the flu a few months ago, and couldn't even get out of bed. It was awful. And my mother-in-law came and like took care of my kids, was doing my laundry, cleaning my house. It was amazing. So, yeah, I definitely have leaned on them. And then also church friends and other friends too have helped us through our moves. And I think 7 is what I think I counted in my head since we've been married.
How long have you been married?
It's almost 7 years.
So every year. This weekend. Oh my gosh, so many fun things are happening for you this weekend.
Yeah.
So a lot of celebrations.
Yes. So definitely it's important to have a community and having somebody to call upon. I think it really makes life easier to get through. And when you're really going through the hard times, to be able to just call or text somebody, I think it's vital to get through as a mom.
Absolutely.
And when you feel weak, I mean, I just can't do anymore. So I think that's really important.
I know being a mom really puts all of your vulnerabilities out.
Yes.
You know, you can't be that all-encompassing shell that you can when you're not a mom. So you really do have to lean on other people. And that was hard for me. I think realizing how much help I needed. Because it always felt like I was transacting a favor. And I'm like, I can't keep up with how many favors I got. But we were at a church in San Rafael, and they just adopted our kids. We moved there, and I found out I was pregnant. So that was their home, and we happened to be living on the property of the church. So it literally was our home. And I remember when I had my first, the pastor's wife, Martha, is an amazing cook. And I'm not. I don't cook. Trader Joe's, lady right here. But I remember she was on the meal train, and she brought us like hearty meals. And I was like, this is amazing. And she would come and just hold Hezekiah. And when the meal train happened and I saw like the food definitely is the way to your heart, it just really helped me to melt those areas where I always felt like I had to be my own defense for my person and like letting people in. And that was really important because over the next couple of years, our family has gone through a career change with my husband becoming a police officer. And when that shift happened, I had to come to terms with how much help I needed, especially because we didn't live close to my family. Like if I lived close to my family all the way, like that would have been fine. But living far from them, it was hard to find people that I didn't feel like it was a burden to ask, you know, because my kids are, they had their own stuff going on when they were very little. As far as the church was, I think the most important thing for me, because that was my whole world. Basically, that's where we lived, where I worked, basically where I knew people because of the area we were in. And they stepped up to the plate. I feel like they just helped me to see that people do want to gird you up. And they're not just transacting a favor. And that's been a belief system that the Lord has had to untangle for me a lot. Because as a mom, you do need help. There's just no getting around it.
Yeah.
Just one last question and we'll wrap it up here. And it's a big question, but say your dreams and your visions here. How do you hope your children view your calling and the way you live it out?
I mean, I really hope that my kids see that I'm the same person that I am on that platform as I am in our kitchen. Like my whole hope has always been that I will just live authentically. And even when that's messy, even when that's crazy, even, you know, all the pieces of me when I get up and I'm like, good morning, Adobe. Like, that's the same way I am when I greet my kids in the morning. Like, good morning, kids. Like, that is me. And so I don't know. I hope that my kids, like when they look back and think about the years like being raised in ministry, I hope that they see like, I hope that they remember the times that I asked their forgiveness when I fell short, or that I prayed over them, or that I encouraged them in an area where I saw the Lord was leading. And I just hope that they take from it like a desire to walk with him. Ultimately, yeah, I want them to live out passionately whatever his desire is for their lives. That's my goal.
I want my kids to have a deep love for the church and for God's people. I feel like that's like a dwindling thing in our society. More and more people are not seeing the importance of being part of a body of believers, you know, through COVID and everyone doing church online or coming once a month, or, you know, not being really plugged in. I just hope my kids can see both Jeff and I, but our commitment and our dedication to being part of a body and a family, a community, a team. That I hope that they don't become jaded or apathetic to church people, and understand that church people are still just people. You know, I've walked through that, being let down by people you really look up to in the church and having to reconcile that. And, you know, they're just people. They aren't God, and being able to separate the two. And I follow God. I don't follow people. But through following God, he's asked us to walk alongside people and minister and be part of a community. And so I just hope that they find a place to be rooted and established and develop that love for themselves, and not run off of what I've done or what their dad has done, but really make it personal and find their own unique calling and ministry, whether that's in the church or not. That's another thing. Yeah. Being rooted and established in the church doesn't mean, you know, oh, you're going to be a pastor or whatever. Maybe you are a greeter. Maybe you just come every week and you watch people's babies. I don't know.
A ministry
service. Yeah.
And if you're interested, we have the nursery.
Plug. So that they find their own unique calling and ministry, and find ways to serve and be involved. And yeah.
I hope my kids will see this as like a everyday life. Like, this is just living life. This is not just like a religious thing, or a like a transaction with God. Like, we go to church on Sundays, we go to church on Wednesdays. I don't want them to see it as that. I want them to view it as this is living life with God. And I hope that they will desire that too, and not just that oh, we have to go every week. But I hope that me and Anthony are doing a good job, also in the home, and teaching them who God is, and teaching them how to walk with Jesus, and how to be a good Christian, how to love people in the church and outside the church. And so I hope that they will desire that, to have that deep relationship with God, and to walk with him, whatever that looks like, if it's ministry or not ministry. But as long as their hearts are with God, I will be a happy mom.
Yeah, for sure.
I pray that, I think every day, God, please let them serve you all the days of their life. That is something I think is my deepest desire, is to know that they are serving God, and I know it's possible. So
yeah, absolutely. What I love about your answers, and I think about where I see hope in the church today, is the authenticity, that we really do want our kids to know Christ for themselves and not have this performative nature about church and God. And because I think we all know people who were raised in church, raised with good families, and walked away from the Lord. And so it's not about being the people on stage all the time. It's about the home life and the overflow that's happening in the church. And the Lord has really been focusing me in on that, especially with being the kids director. What conversations are we having about Jesus at home? And at an age appropriate level, how are they being called to their ministry in life? That it is a lifestyle that we're pouring we're pouring out our oil. We're being a living sacrifice to the Lord. I want them to have a creative curiosity about God always, and not just see it as a routine recipe. And that's something that I will always love about being a PK and seeing where my parents are at with their ministry and their calling, because the way that they approached God, and unfortunately I did walk away, but I do remember growing up and just having this beautiful experience of church, and my mom having this childlike wonder all the time about God. That has stayed with me, and I want to pass that legacy on to my kids, and it's something that they want for their family. Because I think it's important to start helping them dream about where do you want your family to be. When you're a daddy, you're going to go to church, or when you're a mommy, you're going to, be a part of a ministry or whatever. And like calling those things to life now, because we are raising a generation of Jesus followers, not just little kids to become grown-ups, but we're raising them to know God's word and to have it imprinted on their hearts and in their minds. So it's no easy task. I think the authenticity, even in this room, is what God's asking for, not perfection or whatever. And that helps me breathe a little better when I think about the hopes and dreams I have for my kids as far as being believers in Christ.
Yeah. I just wanted to add to that. Like, I think also asking God, like, daily, like, for the grace and the heart to, like, raise them the way that he wants them to be raised. I mean, I have to ask God for that every day. I'm like, God, help me to have a good attitude. Not to be frustrated that I'm cleaning up this other mess again. Like, it's in the little things and in the big things that our kids are watching everything.
They really are. It's amazing.
Something I've been challenged with in closing. Let all your areas of need, like, remember how it felt to need a babysitter or need a dinner or whatever that is, and find a way to do that for another mom or someone else. And to those moms who maybe aren't mothering small children, look at all us moms with small children. Take pity on us. I just hope that all the moms, as we grow out of these phases of small children and teenagers and kids out of the house, that we remember those moments of how we felt when we were momming in that season, and how we can fill those gaps and those needs for other moms in our lives, whether that's in the church or not, and be that support system for each other as we gracefully go from season to season, hopefully. Because so many moms have helped me out, and I hope that, like, if you know Jackie Hall, you know she's doing it right now. That's who I want to
God for Jackie.
Grow up, remember what it was like, and fill all those gaps for other people going through it. So